Karhala Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shah, Bahashem Rakakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule well over the flock. Shalom and salutation to you brothers out here pushing the words of truth and sincerity and Rapah Ma. This article from Times of Israel says Ukraine launches counter-offensive to retake Russian-occupied Kherson. What I wanted to focus on was this image right here. Let that settle in. It says a Ukrainian artillery unit fires with a BM-27 Uragan, a self-propelled 220-meter multiple rocket launcher, at a position near front line in Donetsk region, August 27, 2 days ago, amid the Russian invasion. So as we speaking, you better believe that there's some of these rockets going off right now. Now, you might have heard people getting shot up. That's a usual thing here in America amongst Jake. Somebody getting shot up. There's a house party event, or, they was in the parking lot. Shots went off. Somebody died. You hear about the occasional drowning and car accidents and, but the last thing you're thinking of here in America is that a rocket is going to bust through your house while you sleeping on your bed. That's what's going on in parts of the world, but they don't want us to. They want us to watch the VMAs. That's what's going on in the world, parts of the world, but they want you to focus on the pleasant things, because as long as it's not happening in your town, you shouldn't worry about it. You shouldn't be fearful or scared. That's just something that happens, way over in another place and all that. But the Lord's going to send that type of judgment and that type of fierce anger to you people here in America, right? The scripture tell you that thus shall that great city Babylon be thrown down. The Lord say he coming back with fire, all right, with a sword. So we have plenty of scriptures letting you know that Mystery Babylon, America, is going to be destroyed by fire. Revelation 18th chapter. And I was just going through some of my precepts, which led me to 1 Samuel's. Now, this is a story, this is a story. So I'm going to read it. It's 2 chapters long, but it makes for a great story. And I'm pretty surprised Hollywood ain't never tried tested themselves on this one right here. But this story, 1 Samuel 13, beautiful story, man. A must read. It goes into continued war with Philistia, right? The Philistines, who are Hamites, a Hamitic, or the real Hamites, what you call so-called Africans, the Hamites. Now I'm just going to read through and then make some points. 1 Samuel 13:1. Saul was 30 years old when he became king and reigned for 42 years. Saul selected 3,000 special troops from the army of Israel and sent the rest of the men home. He took 2,000 of the chosen men with him to Michmash in the hill country of Bethel. The other 1,000 went with Saul's son Jonathan to Gibeah in the land of Benjamin. So he already has his troops, splitting them up. It's game time, war against Philistia. This is Israelites versus our enemies, the Philistines. Okay, during the time of King Saul, right before King David. Soon after this, Jonathan attacked and defeated the garrison of Philistia, the Philistines at Geba. The news spread quickly among the Philistines, so Saul blew the ram's horn throughout the land, saying, Hebrews, hear this, rise up in revolt. So there's a few interesting things to see and dynamics to see play out if you got that vivid imagination. How this is happening while 3,000 men, 2,000 with Saul and the other 1,000 with his son, and they set up. His son attacks at Geba, wins, news spreads amongst the Philistines, right? Saul hears the news. He's yelling to the rest of the Hebrews amongst them, rise up, revolt. It's looked like it's about to be a W. It says, all Israel heard the news that Saul had destroyed the Philistine garrison at Geba, and that the Philistines now hated the Israelites more than ever. So the entire Israelite army was summoned to join Saul at Gilgal, right? So now the pressure is coming. Verse 5, the Philistines mustered a mighty army of 3,000 chariots, 6,000 charioteers, and as many warriors as the grains of sand on the seashore. They camped at Michmash, east of Beth Haven. So here it is. Here come the Philistines. Mighty army. 3,000 in the chariots, 6,000. So obviously they over, and it says many warriors as grain. So they came loaded. Let's see what happens. The men of Israel saw what a tight spot they were in, and because they were hard pressed by the enemy, they tried to hide in caves, thickets, rocks, holes, and cisterns. Not everybody's going to be willing to accept all type of pain and pressure. When the pressure's on, sometimes your only response, your instinct, is to get the hell out of there. That doesn't mean these men was going off. They just heard the noise. They felt the pressure. And it was time to go for them, right? But it shows to a man's, his smarts, his wisdom. Sometimes that's a wise situation to get out of there. Sometimes it's a cowardly one. But let's continue. Some of them crossed the Jordan River and escaped into the land of Gad and Gilead. So they were running every which way. Meanwhile, Saul stayed at Gilgal, and his men were trembling with fear. Saul waited there 7 days for Samuel, and Samuel had instructed him earlier. But Samuel still didn't come. Saul realized that his troops were rapidly slipping away. You want to ask yourself, why is he waiting for Samuel? Why? It's an old answer that unless you realize the heritage of the Israelites, you will not understand why he's waiting for one man so that he can attack or do something. Just as Saul was finishing, verse 9. So he demanded, bring me the burnt offerings and the peace offerings. And Saul sacrificed the burnt offerings himself. So instead of waiting for the priest, instead of waiting for Samuel, all right, he took it amongst himself. The sacrifice did it his own way, even though Samuel said, wait for him. Let's read on. Why are we sacrificing a peace offering? So that the Lord will allow us to defeat the enemy and recapture whatever we needed to recapture. That is the heritage of the Israelites, a people who is most near and dear to the Heavenly Father, his people. And so when they prayed and offered a peace offering in the right way, blessings occur. This happens to us since the Lord established that we are his people. Verse 10, just as Saul was finishing with the burnt offering, Samuel arrived. Saul went out to meet and welcome him. But Samuel said, what is this you have done? Saul replied, I saw my men scattering from me, and you didn't arrive when you said you would. And the Philistines are at Michmash ready to battle. So he's making the excuses to say, look, I grew impatient. You said you were going to be here at this time. I looked for you. Now you're here, but I couldn't wait. And his whole job was to wait. It was about being patient, right? Shows you how important patience is, because watch what happens. So I said the Philistines are ready to march against us at Gilgal, and I haven't even asked for the Lord's help. So I felt compelled to offer the burnt offering myself before you came. That sounds like well, not the recluse. It sounds like the reasoning of a lousy, impatient nigga. Somebody that will just say, look, man, the Philistines is right there, and you was supposed to be here at an earlier time, and I ain't asked for the Lord help, so I did it myself. Hey, man, that's it. Watch out for that spirit. Watch what happens for him for having that tone and having that spirit of lack of patience. Verse 13, how foolish, Samuel exclaimed. First thing Samuel did, looking at, this is the ancient world, man. You just calling a king. He just called the king foolish. How much, was Samuel in his right mind? The proof is in what happens to Saul, and what happens to Saul's legacy. He says, how foolish, Samuel exclaimed. You have not kept the command the Lord your power gave you. You's hard-headed, man. Had you kept it, the Lord would have established your kingdom over Israel forever. So you see what he just lost right there out of lack of patience? Let's read on. But now your kingdom must end, for the Lord has sought out a man after his own heart. There goes David. The Lord has already appointed him to be leader of his people, because you have not kept the Lord's commandment. And I know that was a hard thing for Saul to hear. but he deserved it. Verse 15, Samuel then left Gilgal and went on his way, but the rest of the troops went with Saul to meet the army. They went up from Gilgal to Gibeah in the land of Benjamin. When Saul counted the men who were still with him, he only found 600 were left. Once again, we know the Lord liked to deal in smaller numbers. Remember the situation with the 300 who he kept to defeat the Midianites. All right. Another great story. Saul and Jonathan and the troops with them were staying at Geba in the land of Benjamin. The Philistines set up their camp at Michmash. 3 raiding parties soon left the camp of the Philistines. One went north toward Ophrah in the land of Shual. Another went to Beth Horon, and the third moved toward the border of above the valley of Zeboim in the wilderness. There were no blacksmith. Now this is another interesting layer to this story, which is the war between the Philistines and Israelites. Apparently, obviously, the Philistines had the upper hand for many years, and this is the statement that proves it. There were no blacksmiths in the land of Israel in those days. The Philistines wouldn't allow them for fear they would make swords and spears for the Hebrews. So whenever the Israelites needed to sharpen their plowshares, picks, axes, or sickles, they had to take them to a Philistine blacksmith. The charges were as follows: 1/4 of an ounce of silver for sharpening a plowshare or pick, and 1/8 of an ounce for sharpening an axe, a sickle, or an ox goad. So on the day of battle, none of the people of Israel had a sword or a spear except for Saul and Jonathan. What that lets you know is how the enemy get down. It doesn't. In this situation, it's the heathen is a Hamite. In the situations today, the heathen nation that's got us in bondage are the Edomites. The Edomites in no way, form, shape, or would ever allow Jake to get some type of upper hand when it comes to artillery, military, anything. Okay? Your 40 guns, he knows about them. Your ammo, he got you documented. He knows the level of firepower needed to extract all of them guns from you. And this is just the way of the enemy. This is just the art and skill of the enemy. And you see it plainly here. They were so privy that if Israelite blacksmiths existed, we would have a problem on our hands with the Hebrews. If they want to sharpen anything, let them come to us and we're going to tax the hell out of them. That's power. Right? That's power. Let's read verse 23. The pass at Michmash had meanwhile been secured by a contingent of the Philistine army. Keep going. Very good story we reading here. 1 Samuel 14:1, and it's almost over. One day Jonathan said to his armor bearer, Come on, let's go over where the Philistines have their outpost. But Jonathan did not tell his father what he was doing. Meanwhile, Saul and his 600 men were camped on the outskirts of Gibeah around the pomegranate tree at Migron. So here it is. Jonathan's coming up with a plan to go, check out the Philistines on his own. Saul and his 600 men camped out. It says among Saul's men was Ahijah the priest, who was wearing the ephod. The ephod, you go back to what that is, you should know what it is. It's the breastplate that the high priest would wear. All right, with the 12 stones on them. Okay. It says the ephod was a type of apron worn by Israelites. We know high priest, an artifact and an object to be revered in ancient Israelite culture. It says the priestly vest. Ahijah was the son of Ichabod's brother Ahitub, son of Phinehas, son of Eli, the priest of the Lord who had served at Shiloh. No one realized that Jonathan had left the Israelite camp. To reach the Philistine outpost, Jonathan had to go down between 2 rocky cliffs that were called Bozez and Senah. The cliff on the north was in front of Michmash, and the one on the south was in front of Geba. Let's go across to the outpost of those pagans, Jonathan said to his armor bearer. Perhaps the Lord will help us, for nothing can hinder the Lord. It's an interesting concept that he ran with, a thought that he ran with, and look how it benefited him. To think and believe that Perhaps the Lord will help us, for nothing can hinder the Lord. That should be established in your minds every day, as well as my own, as well as the brotherhoods. That's the unity that we have, with the one-minded and the like-mindedness that the brothers share amongst the flock of Israel, is that perhaps the Lord will help us, for nothing can hinder the Lord. It says he can win a battle whether he has many warriors or only a few. Jonathan knew that. Wise Jonathan, Saul's son, knew that. The Lord never needed a large group. It's not about numbers with the Lord. Do what you think is best, the armor bearer replied. I'm with you completely, whatever you decide. That's loyalty. All right then, Jonathan told him, we will cross over and let them see us. If they say to us, stay where you are or we'll kill you, then we will stop and not go up to them. But if they say, come up on and fight, and then we will go up. So he's basically saying, look, if they tell him to stop where you are, we'll kill you, he's going to return. He's not going to fight them. If they say, come on, let's go, come, that's when he going to fight them now. So he's giving them, he's already planning it out. It's basically the parameters is already set for what they about to do. That's the plan. That's the action plan. If they say this to me, we gonna leave. If they say, come fight me, we're going to go up there and serve them. It says that will be the Lord's sign that he will help us defeat them. So here it is. Jonathan's not saying we're going to sneak around. Jonathan ain't saying, look, it's too many of them. Jonathan ain't saying nothing like that. It's him and his armor bearer. Let's talk about faith. He walking up on the Philistines. He got him on, he's been wedged between two rocks, and it's an awkward place. And he's saying, if they tell me to fight, come fight me, he's saying, I'm going to run up there and we're going to serve them, because that's a sign that the Lord's with us. And how often do you, when somebody roll up on you and say, let's go, do you got that same spirit energy that, hey, the Lord got me. Let's go. Let's go. Because as men, the Lord will protect us. We are like sheep. We are likened unto sheep. Wise as serpents, harmless as doves. Sheep amongst wolves. But the Lord at any point in time can raise you up to a defensive state. Right? It says, when the Philistines, and the proof is how he has done it before. And also, where's the spiritual power going to be from? The Lord. And what are we going to do with that? We're going to serve our enemies with it. When the Philistines saw them coming, they shouted, look, the Hebrews are crawling out of their holes. Then the men from the outpost shouted to Jonathan, come up on here and we'll teach you a lesson. Come on, climb right behind me. Jonathan said to his arm bearer, for the Lord will help us defeat them. I want to see how the KJV sound with that real quick. And the men of the garrison answered Jonathan and his armor bearer and said, come up to us and we will show you a thing. And I like that. It sounds just like the NLT, but it's something that Jake say. I'll show you something. Come here. I got something for you. Letting you know that's us, man. That's slang that's something that a Jake will say. Come here. I got something for you. Yeah, come here. All right, it says, for the Lord will help us defeat them. Right. So they climbed up using both hands and feet. I mean, man, talk about faith. And the Philistines fell before Jonathan, and his arm bearer killed those who came behind them. They killed some 20 men in all, and their bodies were scattered over about a half an acre. Suddenly, panic broke out in the Philistine army, both in the camps and in the field, including even the outposts and raided parties. And just then an earthquake struck and everyone was terrified. Can you imagine that scene right there, man? It is just as you imagine you the armor bearer. They say the word that means that the Lord's going to be with us. You and Jonathan jump up over the rocks, climb up and defeat 20 of them. Panic breaks out. Everybody's running. From the outposts to the raiding parties, they are running. Then an earthquake strikes and puts everybody even in more fear. It's chaotic, yo. All because of that's how the Lord gets busy. He's chaotic. He's chaotic and peaceful when he wants to be, and chaotic when he wants to be. And the way he chose for things that, to break down proudful men is through chaos. It's to complete disarray. It's to make them tremble in fear. Saul's lookouts in Gibeah of Benjamin saw a strange sight. The vast army of the Philistines began to melt away in every direction. They was peeling it. Earthquake happened and they was booking it. Call the roll and find out who's missing. Call the roll and find out who's missing. It's a roll call. That's it says Saul ordered. So that's brotherly love. Right? Saul wasn't just some complete, that's brotherly love. He want to know who's missing. He want to know what's going on. That's an Israelite thing. Looking out for your, for your brother. It's an Edomite thing, to say I'm my brother's keeper. That's the spirit of Cain on you. Not caring about your brother. Let's read on. And when they checked, they found that Jonathan and his armor bearer were gone. Then Saul shouted to Ahijah, bring the ephod here, for at that time Ahijah was wearing the ephod in front of the Israelites. But while Saul was talking to the priest, the confusion in Philistine camp grew louder and louder. So Saul said to the priest, never mind, let's get going. Once again, putting off the priests. That was just a habit of Saul. Said then Saul and his, basically he got a hasty spirit on him. He got a hasty, kind of fearful spirit as opposed to his son, Jonathan. Then Saul and all his men rushed out to battle and found the Philistines killing each other. Now, wrap your head around that. The enemy that you were just petrified of is serving it themselves now. They're attacking each other right after an earthquake. Says there were terrible confusion everywhere. So it's a little thing to think that the Most High cannot order in a confused state of mind to where Esau's fighting Esau, or Americans is fighting attacking their own. Russians attacking their own factions and breakups and whatnot, skirmishes amongst each other. It says even the Hebrews who had previously gone over to the Philistine army revolted and joined in with Saul, Jonathan, and the rest of the Israelites. So now you got the Hebrews who they were backbiters, man. They was treasonous Israelites that joined over to the Philistine army. Even they joined back with Saul, man, and turned back into their right state of mind. Started fighting for Israel. Likewise, the men of Israel who were hiding in the hill country of Ephraim joined the chase when they saw the Philistines run away. So there's Jake knows, in the day of the Lord, in the day of his power, that our people shall be willing. Jake know when the Lord is serving our enemies. You just have been so docile over the years to think that you don't know when he's serving you. You don't want to acknowledge that the Lord is serving us right now in this captivity here in America. Present day, 2020, August going into September 2022. Getting served out here by our enemies, and we in a state of confusion for the most part, our people. And what can the Lord do, which he has done? Drove our enemies away after an earthquake. It says, likewise, the men of Israel who were hiding in the hill country of Ephraim joined the chase when they saw the Philistines running away. Even the scared will get courage in the day of the Lord. So the Lord saved Israel that day, and the battle continued to rage beyond Beth Aven. So the Lord saved Israel that day. That's nothing new under the sun. Exodus 14:30. Thus the Lord saved Israel that day out of the hand of the Egyptians, and Israel saw the Egyptians dead upon the seashore. Judges 2:18. When the Lord raised them up judges, and then the Lord was with the judge and delivered them out of the hand of their enemies all the days of the judge. For it repented the Lord because of their groanings by reason of them that oppressed them and vexed them. The Lord hears. The Lord hears the groanings, and the reason why we groan is because we're in an oppressive state. We're not. Is Israel a homeborn slave? You're not supposed to be ruled over, man. You're supposed to be doing the ruling, the ordering. You know, there's a level of modesty that it's offensive because the Most High created us to be the rulers over them. There's a level of humility that, it just becomes over righteous because the Most High has created our people to be at the top tier of the nations because he chose us that way. And so when we grown, the Most High hears it because we're his children. First, 2 Kings 14:27, and the Lord said not that he would blot out the name of Israel from under heaven, but he saved them by the hand of Jeroboam the son of Joash. He just keeps delivering us through his men, through his judges, through his kings, through his prophets. Psalms 44:6, for I will not trust in my bow, neither shall my sword save me. But thou hast saved us from our enemies, and hast put them to shame that hated us. And Yahweh we boast all the day long, and praise thy name forever. Salah. Hosea 1:7, but I will have mercy upon the house of Judah, and will save them by the Lord their power. Who? By the Lord. How will we be saved? By the Lord. And will not save them by the bow, nor by the sword, nor by battle, by horses, or nor by horsemen. Can we fight our way out of it? That's a big no. We ain't going to be able to Jonathan our way out of this one. But what we going to get is some divine salvation. Psalms 20:7, some trust in chariots and some in horses, but we will remember the name of the Lord, our power. Psalms 33:16, there is no king saved by the multitude of a host. A mighty man is not delivered by much strength. Even though you thought they were, they're not. A horse is a vain thing for safety. You thought it was, looks, but it's not. What happened to the Philistines' horses? Scattered. Neither shall he deliver any by his great strength. You think that strength is all. I seen a video of a clip, thumbnail of a video that said, MMA fighter kills a bodybuilder. Bodybuilder look like he could Hulk smash you. But that MMA kick just severed his spinal cords, and So it's not by strength either, man. That's how much fear you gotta have in the Father, man. The scripture says, so the Lord saved Israel that day, and the battle continued to rage even beyond Beth-Aven. Lord willing, this video was edifying, straight to the point, Lord willing. I'm gonna say call Hallel Yahweh Shemi Shah, and double honor to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, rule well over the flock. Shalom, salutations, brothers out here, the words of truth and sincerity. Shalom, Kwame Shala, DTA, Shalom.